Hey everyone. So it's time to check in on one of our favorite little goblins from the last couple of months. You'll maybe remember 48-year-old Ida Lorenzo, the woman who came up to a young woman at a steakhouse in St. George and allegedly yanked her skirt down, only to find herself widely chastised by the internet and slapped with a Class A misdemeanor charge for her troubles. In my last video about Ida, which was May 1st, we established that she had been charged for this incident, and the internet had obviously mocked her relentlessly, but we didn't yet know whether or not Ida had been fired from her job working for Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes, and we didn't really get to see who she was as a person outside of that clip. Some people wondered maybe she just had this one bad moment, a bit of booze mixed in, and reacted poorly, something like that. Well, we now have a very juicy body cam video of an officer interviewing Ida and her son, who was there with her. If you'll recall, he was the one who was there with his dance troupe that she was chaperoning for. And it gives us an inside look, this body cam video, into who Ida really is as a person and her thoughts on all of this. I originally posted this what happened video on the Ida case on May 1st, right? And nothing really happened for about 2 weeks. I was starting to wonder if maybe the whole thing had lost steam and blown over, and that was it. But lo and behold, in about mid-May, her interview with a cop from April 22nd, this is right after the incident occurred, was obtained and released by news channels like Law and Crime and ABC7. And while body cam footage is really public domain footage, we do thank them for their help with this next bit.
Are you Ida?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi. Good to meet you. So, these little girls have continued to incite a mob, and I've been harassed all day. Not only did they took it down from St. George Post and her Facebook, but now she put it on Instagram, and now she put it on TikTok.
Okay.
No, remember you look at my Instagram account, and they've been harassing me all day. So I turn notifications off and everything, but they are trying to reach out to they're inciting someone that reaches out for personal information to people to get their personal information, or someone that is known to like hunt people down.
Okay. FBI.
And note, they're actually talking about Karen Hunter Donish here.
Not FBI, but someone that can, I don't know,
It's just a person that will either reach out to communities or through various ways they are able to obtain information and they share it.
As like a private investigator?
Yeah, as a private.
Whether the goal is to get somebody fired,
Sure.
something like that. They
continue to tag this guy and reach out to this guy to find it, my personal private information.
Sure.
And all of my stuff is usually private anyway. I don't normally disseminate my stuff out there.
When she's talking about her personal private information here, what she actually means is her name, where she works, stuff that is completely not private information that you are allowed to disseminate about somebody.
But in this particular situation, I told them who I was because not only were there minors involved that were all seated around me, but my son was present as well. And so that's the only reason why I was like, listen, charges can happen. You're hanging out, your private parts are hanging out in private in front of minors. That's not something that you should take lightly, cover up. But it doesn't give them the right to disseminate my information publicly like that and to try to harass me to the extent that I've been having it. I believe I'm 100% in believing in freedom of speech and free, but when you omit, delete, and make it seem like one situation is totally different than the other, and then accuse me of sexual harassment without the facts, at some point something needs to be done and needs to be stopped, and they have a reputation for doing this, which is why none of the minor kids wanted to get up and say anything. And so
The video she posted has currently reached 517,000 views.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now it has over 15 million.
It just kind of
and
blew up.
people
it's
are
by far her most viewed video. It just kind of.
And it's because she's putting me out there as a sexual predator.
Karen, just
Yeah. The hard part is The hard part is, even if it's edited and made it deleted, obviously you could be looking at slander if it's not completely true, but the fact that you did touch her skirt, she can claim, if she wants, she can claim sexual battery, right? She hasn't. There's no legal investigation right now on either of you. Nobody's in trouble right now for any of that stuff, but it would have to be founded, right, on both ends, right? We know that you saw this, but we don't have any video evidence of her hanging out. We don't have any witnesses that have come forward and said this is what's happening other than I only have your account.
Because most of them were men, and I forwarded you a text message of the person that was with me that was a male, and it was like, I would be arrested in a nanosecond if I was sexually accused of like touching someone inappropriately.
Oh yeah,
right?
Not touching, I just mean they saw. The witnesses come forward, there's documentation for it, that kind of thing. But
because of the sensitivity of the nature, and everyone thought she was a minor because she did look like a minor, and there was a ton of kids. It was the high school ball.
Did you think she was a minor?
Yes, I did. I actually thought she was, and that's why I was like,
I just don't understand. I don't understand why you went up and touched her.
I didn't touch her as a person. Like,
I mean, you can find it. But you see how that looks, right?
I got a standing ovation from everyone that was seating behind me.
That's totally beside the point.
She says she got a standing ovation for this. She literally just tried to slip an and everyone clapped in there.
It's protecting a kid by covering their private parts.
Correct, but that's not your job to do.
Well, they weren't covering up, and
call us. That's what I was trying to tell you.
I was trying to. You could see me on the video trying to dial the phone.
You told me that it would take too long for us to get there, so you did.
No, that's what But I was trying to dial you guys, but because they had everyone storming in, and you could see how they were being.
They thought she was sexually battered. That's her claim.
That's her claim. That's her claim.
And all she knows is somebody grabbed her from behind.
No, because I told her that her parts were hanging out. And then when nothing was being done and all the little kids behind me were just staring, that's when I proceeded to cover, and I was trying to dial. I mean, you see me on the video where I have my phone in hand and I'm trying to dial, but I couldn't even dial.
Okay, so here she says she couldn't dial 3 numbers and press call because there were people around her, which is obviously very silly.
I couldn't even dial. And then that's when the owner was coming up. So it's all
I understand that
perception.
there's inappropriateness with how she's dressed. I can totally understand that portion. I can understand that things got blown out of proportion, and I can understand your standpoint from it. But I guess, what do you want me to do?
This next part of the conversation, the interview with this officer, is fascinating because it really shows you. I mean, we've seen that Ida has kind of a strange recollection of how things went down. She's said some things that don't quite make a lot of sense, but she really displays her ignorance of the law here. And remember that she works for the Attorney General, the top prosecutor in the state.
Well, the post needs to come down, and they need to stop.
That's freedom of speech. There's no crime.
Not when they
can say whatever they want.
No, but I mean, they're reaching me. All their little friends.
Have you told them to stop talking to you?
No, because.
Try that.
No, because then that is me instigating them.
But that's the only way that they can be harassing you. If you tell them to not contact you and then they contact you, then that's criminal.
Well,
If you don't say anything and you're engaging in it, then this is just a civil banter that the unfortunate thing is you're held to a little bit higher standard than that.
Oh, but then if I engage in a conversation, then that makes it appear like
you don't have to.
I am.
I'm just telling you, I can't do much. Legally, there is no. I can't tell them to stop posting anything.
So what would be
it's
your
freedom of
best
speech.
advice for her?
Now we're in a limbo where you have acted in a capacity that was also inappropriate and illegal. Technically, as it is a crime. You cannot touch somebody if they do not want to be touched, and especially if it's in the area. If you pull her skirt down and that's touching her buttocks.
Well, I didn't touch her buttocks.
But her skirt is.
Her skirt was way beyond her buttock. I mean,
I'm saying what was she say?
Above her privates.
What will she say? And the classification for disorderly conduct for you touching her is nothing but sexual battery is a class A.
So this last segment here is important. This is her more thorough recollection of events, like line by line, as she believes they happened.
Due to the shortness of her skirt, it was like this, and you could see everything open. And that's why I was like, so I stood behind her, and I was like, go like this with my clothing, and I was like, you should probably cover up. And then at that point, she turned and she was like, like that. And I was like, oh my God. And that's when the dad was like, cover up, you know, and then the mob rush of kids started coming in. And that's at that point where I was like, oh my God, like you need to cover up. And that's when I pulled her skirt down to cover up, because instead of like covering up and backing up and saying, okay, is my skirt down? No, she proceeded to like lift her arms and move with her friends, and it kept going further up and further up. And that's why I was like, oh my God, somebody like cover it up. And as you can see, they were mob rushing at me as I was trying to stand behind her to cover her butt.
And the information they might have is that they think you're sexually assaulting there. They don't know, but that's what they're hearing.
Correct.
It's
Exactly.
a protection aspect.
Yeah, but in this respect, you know, there's the issue that I have is that if they continue to hit somebody to try to hunt me down, then that's more than just putting the story out there. That's more than just posting a video and letting people decide for themselves, right? Now they are trying to get somebody to come and hunt me down and find me to put my personal information out there. Yeah. That is way
They can't
more.
post certain things about you, but it's not like
What things would...
Like they couldn't post anything they couldn't post your social, they couldn't post your driver's license information, you know. I mean, maybe they could. It's still public. It's whatever's public record is not going to be as protected. But if you're talking like financial documents, you're talking your social security. No, it's public database. It could be looked at. It could be looked at as an issue if you had somebody show up and that was the case. Then we have an issue that's the problem. But the reality is if they are. The best thing you could do is if you are feeling this way, because a lot of it's civil, right? I can't do a whole lot legally.
Right.
But you can still go to the 5th District Court and like obtain temporary POs and whatever, restraining orders, documents to where you can take action against them for that information if a judge sides with you on that. Because he could be like, yeah, I could see how having your address put out on there is a danger to you, because now if these people are going to be angry with you and they think that they're going to come find you because you touched this little girl, right? And then you got somebody showing up on your doorstep. Now we have a problem. So they could look at it that way.
Ultimately, Ida seemed to have absolutely no concept of these laws here, appearing genuinely confused and baffled at the fact that, yes, people can record you in publicly available spaces, and yes, they can say things about you online and release public information about you. She also seemed baffled that she wasn't legally entitled to do what she did, or that it would have been a more serious offense had this woman actually been a minor, as Ida suspected her of being. A young man who was a random bystander also saw the whole thing, and this was his testimony to the same officer on the same day.
So my perspective was, because I had a perfect view of it, she's sitting on the bed trailer, and it looked like she got up and said something to her husband or the dude that she was with, handed him something, and then she just sassily walked right up to her, and I don't think she said anything. She just pulled the skirt down, then says something, and then walks back.
And this appears to contradict what we were told by Ida, or what the officer was told by Ida, right, just a few minutes ago, how she had been saying something to this girl before she ever went up and touched her.
And then that's when I told her, I was like, hey, she just pulled her skirt down, that was weird.
And then we all started talking.
So then there's this group, they're talking, they're saying this stuff, they're all looking at her for probably maybe 80 seconds, 90 seconds. And then she gets up again, comes over, and that's when they started going back and forth. I let her go for a sec, and then I went over and was just kind of tripping. I'm like, what are you doing? Don't talk to her, you have no right, blah, blah.
And there was mention of where she was saying, I don't want to, in the video, she said, I don't want to see your whole ass cheeks, right?
Yeah, but yeah.
And even if it was a little bit of, let's say, butt exposed, right? You're not talking your correct?
I had
So,
shorts and underwear on.
and so she's also claiming that they couldn't have been on because she saw, like I said,
And fallen, yeah.
in detail, that's why I asked those questions,
I
just to
have
see.
a video. She has a video of her going this now.
I got that video, and that's why, so I can confirm that too. I'm just checking that you were wearing underwear. You were wearing shorts over your underwear.
We got another update to the Ida Lorenzo lore on May 24th, when the New York Post published a bombshell story that confirmed that Ida had been fired from her job. Which ultimately is not remotely surprising because, as I said in the last video, it shows a real lack of both judgment, important to the legal profession, and more importantly still, a basic understanding of the law. The law office's termination notice read, "I am writing to inform you that you have not passed your probationary employment period successfully, and today, April 25th, 2024, you are being separated from state employment with the Attorney General's office. Your non-compliance with policies and standards related to performance contributed to this decision." And about 2 weeks after this news dropped, so we're on May 27th now, Ida Lorenzo set herself up a GoFundMe page. And normally I probably wouldn't bother going through something like this, but I found some stuff in here that was kinda whack. She starts it off by accusing the internet of cyberbullying, intimidating, and harassing her, and says she isn't being allowed the resources to receive help, which frankly I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. She goes on to say that as the single mother of 2 teenage sons pictured here at the top of her GoFundMe page, she needs to raise funds to pay for things like groceries and gas. She further says that she's, quote, trying to survive a characterization attack and outright discrimination in the court of public opinion. And this struck me as an odd way to characterize what's happening to her, because no one is really discriminating against her here. They're berating her based entirely on her own alleged actions, not the color of her skin or her sex or the way she looks. Anyway, she launched from that into a segment about how she spent a decade helping minority families buy homes, which made me wonder, really? She makes it sound here like she worked for some nonprofit with a mission to assist minority first-time homebuyers with their first purchases, but when I looked her up, I actually found her Zillow profile here, and it appears that she didn't do anything of the sort. I looked into her company she was attached to, Intercap Lending, and expected some kind of special organization that maybe took grant money from the government for some minority home buying assistance program of some kind, but that actually doesn't appear to be the case. This appears to just be a regular mortgage lender, a for-profit mortgage lender. And fun fact, actually, this is Mitt Romney's son's mortgage loan company, and it's definitely for profit. So what she appears to have really meant was she was a standard issue mortgage loan officer for a for-profit company who sometimes had clients that happened to be minorities. She goes on to also characterize her regular mortgage lending job as providing stable housing for children because it's proven to reduce homelessness. But again, she's trying to spin this as though it's humanitarian or charity work that she's doing. This is a for-profit, it's just a regular loan. She goes on to air out her son's extremely personal struggles with his mental health earlier in life, and we hope that she at least asked his permission before using that in her sob story, but then claims that she herself was, quote, bullied by law enforcement, and even a victim at one time of domestic violence, which, as an aside, we certainly don't wish that on anyone, including Ida. Ida may be ignorant, she may be a busybody, perhaps a bit disingenuous to boot, but we certainly don't think she deserved any of that. Finally, she goes on to insist that she, quote, did the right thing, and thanks anyone willing to help her out. The effort has so far raised $1,560, which definitely isn't nothing, but fell dramatically short of her $5,000 goal. Frankly, it baffles me that she insists, over a month after the incident when she wrote this, that she insists that she absolutely did nothing wrong and blames this all on circumstances beyond her control. Finally, when Ida spoke with the officer, it became clear that the officer seemed to be tacitly suggesting that she needed to be able to actually substantiate the claims she was making about how this all went down, and that it would be wise of her to collect actual witnesses and evidence for what she kept insisting was the real truth. And she had her first chance to do so just recently, actually, because her first court appearance for this case was June 19th, and ABC 7 described it as her attorney, one Susan Gustin, answering routine questions, with another appearance now scheduled for the end of July. We'll of course update you if she ends up getting convicted, but that pretty much gets you up to date on the Ida Lorenzo lore thus far. Later this week, we'll be taking a look at a really crazy viral story from messy TikTok, where a young woman accused her mom and sister of stealing her car while she was literally in the middle of burying her dad. This one had millions of folks up in arms on the internet, but this story is actually super messy and the details are deeper than what a lot of people expected, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. We'll also be taking a deep dive into the absurd story of Jeanne E. Moore, a woman who found herself the subject of 3 separate viral videos recorded by 3 different and entirely unrelated people in which she makes herself look like one of the worst people to ever walk the earth. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you around.